The bell above the cafe door chimed at exactly 3:47 p.m. on a Thursday afternoon. That would split Melissa Grant's life into before and after. She was behind the counter, flour dusting her forearms, the scent of fresh-baked cinnamon rolls filling the small space she'd built from nothing. The autumn light streamed through the windows of Lily's corner, casting golden rectangles across mismatched tables and chairs she'd collected from thrift stores over the past 5 years. This place was hers. Every chipped mug, every wobbly table leg, every hand-painted menu board. It was proof that she'd survived. Then he walked in. Melissa's hands froze mid-wipe on the counter. Her breath caught somewhere between her lungs and throat, trapped like a bird against glass. Because there, in a charcoal suit that probably cost more than her monthly rent, stood James Whitmore, the man who'd walked away 7 years ago, the man who'd chosen his family's empire over the future they'd dreamed about in her tiny apartment, the man who didn't know he had a daughter. From the corner booth, a small voice pierced through the fog of Melissa's shock. "Mommy, can I have more hot chocolate?" 6-year-old Lily sat with her coloring book spread across the table, her dark hair falling in waves that matched her father's exactly. She had his eyes too, that particular shade of gray-blue that changed with the light. Melissa had spent 6 years seeing James in every expression that crossed her daughter's face, and she'd learned to bear it. But having them both in the same room, breathing the same air, that was a cruelty she hadn't prepared for. James hadn't noticed Lily yet. He was looking at Melissa with an expression she couldn't quite read. Surprise mixed with something deeper, something that looked almost like pain. He took 2 steps forward, and she saw the exhaustion in his face, the new lines around his eyes. Success had aged him, or maybe it was something else entirely. Melissa. Her name came out rough, like he'd been carrying it in his throat for years. "I heard you had a place in town. I didn't know it was—" He gestured around the cafe, and there was wonder in the movement. This is incredible. She wanted to throw something at him. She wanted to collapse. She wanted to run. Instead, she gripped the counter and forced her voice steady. "What are you doing here, James?" Before he could answer, Lily appeared at Melissa's side, tugging on her apron. The little girl studied James with the fearless curiosity of childhood, her head tilted in that way that meant she was puzzling something out. Melissa's heart hammered against her ribs. This wasn't how it was supposed to happen. There were supposed to be years more of preparation. Careful words chosen, the right moment found. "Who's that, Mommy?" Lily asked, still staring at James. And James, finally looking down, went absolutely still. Melissa watched the moment unfold in agonizing slow motion, saw his eyes widen as he took in Lily's face, the dawning recognition, the mathematics of years clicking into place behind his expression. His gaze snapped to Melissa, then back to Lily, then to Melissa again. She saw the question forming before he could speak it. "Melissa," his voice cracked. "Is she—" "Hot chocolate coming right up, baby," Melissa interrupted, her voice too bright, too false. She squeezed Lily's shoulder. "Go back to your coloring. I'll bring it in just a minute." Lily skipped away, oblivious to the earthquake happening 3 feet above her head. The cafe suddenly felt impossibly small. Melissa could hear every sound with painful clarity. The hiss of the espresso machine, the tick of the vintage clock on the wall, the thud of her own heartbeat. James looked like he'd been struck. "How old?" He couldn't finish the question. "Don't," Melissa whispered fiercely. "Don't do this here. Not now." But his eyes had already found Lily again, and Melissa knew he was counting backwards, remembering their last night together, that final goodbye that had stretched until sunrise. The night before his father had given him the ultimatum, the family business or the girl from the wrong side of town. He'd chosen the legacy. She'd been left with the consequence. "We need to talk," James said, and there was something desperate in his voice now. "There's nothing to talk about." Melissa's hands trembled as she reached for a mug. "You made your choice 7 years ago. I didn't know. Because I didn't tell you," she said, meeting his eyes with all the steel she'd forged in the years of single motherhood, of midnight fevers and lonely birthdays, of being enough for 2 parents. "And I had my reasons." The bell chimed again. 2 customers walked in, laughing about something, completely unaware they'd entered a moment where time had folded in on itself. Melissa forced a smile, forced her voice professional. "Welcome to Lily's Corner. I'll be right with you." James stood frozen, watching her move through the motions of normal life while their shared past and impossible present collided in the space between them. And in the corner booth, Lily hummed while she colored, drawing a picture of a princess in a castle, completely unaware that the kingdom of her small, safe world was about to change forever. James couldn't leave. Melissa had hoped, prayed, that he would take the hint, walk back out that door and let her keep the life she'd carefully constructed from the rubble of heartbreak. But he ordered coffee and sat at the table nearest the counter, and she felt his eyes on her through every transaction, every smile she gave customers, every moment she pretended her world wasn't tilting on its axis. The afternoon crowd thinned. By 5 o'clock, only one elderly regular remained, nursing her tea and working on a crossword puzzle in the corner opposite from where Lily had spread her kingdom of crayons and paper. Melissa ran out of busy work. She couldn't avoid this forever, though God knew she wanted to. She made 2 cups of coffee, his black, hers with too much cream, some things muscle memory never forgot, and sat down across from him. The table felt like a negotiating table, a battlefield, a confessional all at once. "Her name is Lily," Melissa said before he could speak. "She's 6. She likes dinosaurs and refuses to wear anything that isn't purple. She's brilliant and funny and kind. And she's mine, James. She's been mine for every single day of her life." James's hands wrapped around his coffee mug like he needed something to hold on to. "Why didn't you tell me?" The question came out broken, not accusatory. "When you found out, why didn't you tell you?" Melissa laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You'd already made it crystal clear where your priorities were. Your father called me the week after you left. Did you know that?" James's face went pale. "What?" "Robert Whitmore himself. Called to make sure I understood that you were engaged to Victoria Sterling. That the merger was happening. That the wedding was planned for spring. He offered me money, James, a lot of money, to disappear quietly." The memory still tasted bitter on her tongue. "I hung up on him. But the message was clear. There was no place in your new life for me. I didn't know about any of that." James ran his hand through his hair, a gesture she remembered from 1,000 stressed moments in their past. "Victoria and I, it wasn't real. The engagement lasted 6 months before we both admitted it was a mistake. The merger happened anyway. My father got what he wanted. Good for you," Melissa said flatly. "Meanwhile, I was throwing up every morning and trying to figure out how to afford prenatal vitamins." She watched him absorb that, watched the guilt settle into his features like sediment sinking in water. 7 years ago, she would have done anything to see that remorse. Now it just made her tired. "I want to know her," James said quietly. "I want to—" God, Melissa, I missed 6 years. 6 years of her life. I want to— What? Be her father? Melissa kept her voice low, aware of Lily just yards away. "You can't just walk in here and claim a title you haven't earned. You weren't there for the pregnancy scares and the labor, and the nights I walked the floors with her crying from colic. You didn't change diapers or teach her to walk or hold her through nightmares. You don't get to be dad just because biology says so." "I know that," James's voice cracked. "But I'm here now. Let me try. Let me be part of her life, please." Melissa wanted to say no. Every protective instinct in her body screamed to refuse. To keep her daughter safe from the possibility of abandonment, from the pain of building a connection with someone who might leave again when things got difficult. But she looked at Lily, chattering to herself while she colored, and she thought about the questions that had started coming lately. Why don't I have a daddy? Where is my daddy? Does he know about me? "I need to think," Melissa said finally. "This isn't just about you and me anymore. Anything I decide affects her. She comes first. She always comes first. I understand." James reached across the table, stopping just short of touching her hand. "But Melissa, I need you to know something. Leaving you was the biggest mistake of my life. Not a day has gone by that I haven't thought about you, about us, about what we could have been. Don't." Melissa pulled her hand back. "Don't do that. Don't romanticize what happened. You chose money and power and your family name. You chose their approval over our future. That's not a mistake, that's a decision." "Boon it," the bell chimed. "Sarah Mitchell." Melissa's part-time help and the closest thing she had to family in this town, came through the door with her usual whirlwind energy. She stopped short when she saw James, her expression shifting from friendly to protective in an instant. Sarah knew the whole story. She'd been there through the pregnancy, the birth, the long nights when Melissa had wondered if she could do this alone. "Everything okay here?" Sarah asked, directing the question to Melissa but keeping her eyes on James. "Fine," Melissa said, standing. James was just leaving. James stood too, pulling a business card from his wallet. He set it on the table between them. "My personal cell is on there. Please, when you're ready to talk, really talk, call me." "I meant what I said. I want to be part of her life, whatever that looks like, however long it takes to earn that privilege." He walked to the door, then paused and looked back at Lily one more time. The longing on his face was almost painful to witness. Then he was gone and Melissa could breathe again. "That was him," Sarah said. "Wasn't a question. That was him. What are you going to do?" Melissa looked at her daughter, at the life they'd built together in this small cafe, at the carefully constructed peace she'd fought so hard to achieve. Then she looked at the business card on the table, at the ghost of what might have been. "I have no idea," she whispered. "Absolutely no idea." 3 days passed before Melissa called. 3 days of Lily asking innocent questions about the sad man in the nice suit. 3 days of sleepless nights where Melissa replayed every moment of their conversation. 3 days of carrying James's business card in her apron pocket like a weight she couldn't put down. She called at midnight on Sunday, when Lily was asleep upstairs in their small apartment above the cafe. Phone rang once before he picked up. "Melissa." He sounded wide awake like he'd been waiting. "Tuesday mornings," she said without preamble, "before the cafe opens. You can come at 7. We'll talk about what this might look like. But James, I need you to understand something. You don't get to break her heart. If you're not absolutely certain you can be consistent, reliable, and present, then walk away now. Because I will survive you leaving again. I've already done it once. But she won't understand. She's 6. She'll think she did something wrong. I'm certain." His response came without hesitation. "I swear to you, Melissa, I'm not going anywhere." Tuesday morning arrived cold and gray, autumn rain streaking the cafe windows. James appeared at 7 exactly, looking different in jeans and a simple sweater, more like the boy she'd loved in college than the CEO who'd walked into her cafe last week. He carried a briefcase, and when he opened it, photographs spilled across the table between them. "I want to show you something," he said. "I want you to understand what happened. Not as an excuse, I own my choices, but as context." The photographs told a story Melissa had never known. James with his father at various company events, the progression clear, his smile becoming more forced, his posture more rigid, the light dimming from his eyes year after year. There were photos from his brief engagement to Victoria, both of them looking miserable in their perfection. And then, a newspaper clipping. "Whitmore CEO suffers stroke, son takes full control. My father had a massive stroke 18 months after I took over the company," James said quietly. "He survived, but he's been in a care facility ever since. And the first thing I did once I had full control was start looking for you." Melissa's heart stuttered. "What? It took my investigators 8 months to find you. You'd moved states, changed your last name. I wanted to disappear," Melissa admitted. "After Lily was born, I needed a fresh start somewhere your family couldn't find us. I hired 3 different firms. I was about to give up when one finally traced you here. I came as soon as I knew." He looked at her with such raw honesty that it hurt. "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I need you to know, choosing my father's empire over you destroyed me. I spent 5 years being exactly the son he wanted, and I was empty, completely empty. Every success felt hollow because you weren't there to share it." Melissa felt tears threatening. She'd built such careful walls around her heart, and here he was, finding the cracks. "You could have left sooner. Your father had his stroke 5 years ago. You could have—" "I was married to the company, bound by contracts and obligations, and I was terrified," James admitted. "Terrified that you'd moved on, that you'd found someone else, that you wouldn't want to see me. I told myself I was being selfless by staying away, but really I was being a coward." "You were." Melissa didn't soften the words. I was, he agreed. But I'm here now, and I know I can't make up for lost time, but I want to try. Not just with Lily, with you too. Don't. Melissa stood, pacing to the window. This isn't about us. There is no us anymore, James. That died 7 years ago. This is about Lily. About whether she deserves to know her father. That's all this can be, is it? He came to stand beside her, not touching, but close enough that she could feel the warmth of him. Because when I walked into this cafe last week, it felt like coming home. Like I'd been wandering for 7 years and finally found where I belonged. That's nostalgia talking. Or guilt, or it's love, James said simply. It never stopped being love. Not for a single day. Melissa closed her eyes against the words. She couldn't do this. She couldn't let him back in. Couldn't risk everything she'd built on the possibility that this time might be different. But when she opened her eyes and looked at him, she saw something she'd never seen before in all their years together. Complete certainty. James Whitmore, who had wavered in the face of his father's demands, who had chosen duty over desire, was looking at her with absolute resolve. One step at a time, she whispered. You meet Lily. You start building a relationship with her. We see how it goes. Everything else, everything between you and me, that's not on the table. Not now, maybe not ever. One step at a time, James agreed. When can I meet her? Properly, I mean. Sunday, Melissa decided. Come for brunch. She'll be here. I'll tell her beforehand, not everything, but enough. That you're an old friend. That you want to get to know her. And eventually? When she asks. Eventually, Melissa said. We tell her the truth. But not yet. She has to trust you first. So do I, James nodded, accepting the terms. As he gathered his things to leave, he paused at the door. Thank you for giving me this chance. I know I don't deserve it. You don't, Melissa agreed. But she deserves to know her father. If you can be the man she needs you to be, I will be, James promised. I'll be whatever she needs. Whatever you both need. After he left, Melissa stood in the empty cafe and let herself feel everything she'd been holding back. The anger and hurt, yes, but also the dangerous flutter of hope. Because despite everything, despite the years and the pain and the walls she'd built, part of her still remembered what it felt like to be loved by James Whitmore, and that terrified her more than anything else. Sunday arrived with brilliant sunshine, as if the universe had decided to offer false optimism. Melissa had barely slept. She'd rehearsed the conversation with Lily a dozen times in her head, trying to find words that would make sense to a 6-year-old. Words that wouldn't raise questions she wasn't ready to answer. Baby, she'd said that morning, sitting on Lily's bed surrounded by stuffed animals. Remember the man who came to the cafe last week? The one you asked about? Lily had nodded, her gray-blue eyes, James's eyes, studying her mother's face with disconcerting perception. His name is James, and he's an old friend of Mommy's. He'd like to get to know you, if that's okay. He's going to come have brunch with us today. Why does he want to know me? Lily had asked with childhood's perfect logic. Melissa had chosen her words carefully. Because you're an amazing person, and anyone would be lucky to know you. And because he and I used to be very close, a long time ago. Now, watching James walk up to the cafe at exactly 11 o'clock, Melissa felt her chest tighten. He carried a wrapped package under his arm. Not too large, not trying too hard, but clearly chosen with care. She appreciated that restraint. He was learning already. Lily was in the kitchen with Sarah, ostensibly helping make pancakes but mostly sneaking chocolate chips. Melissa opened the door before James could knock. Ready? She asked, terrified, he admitted with a small smile. But ready, she let him inside. The cafe was closed to the public on Sundays, a sacred day of rest that Melissa guarded fiercely. Today, she'd set one table by the window with flowers and Lily's favorite butterfly placemats. The small touches of normalcy helped calm her nerves. Lily, she called. Our friend is here. Lily emerged from the kitchen, chocolate on her chin, stopping shy when she saw James. But then curiosity won over reserve, as it always did with her. Hi, she said. You're the sad man. Are you still sad? James crouched to her level, and Melissa saw his hands trembling slightly. A little, he said honestly. But I'm much happier now that I get to have breakfast with you. It's brunch, Lily corrected seriously. That's when breakfast and lunch have a baby. James laughed, genuine and surprised, and something in Melissa's chest cracked open. You're absolutely right. I should have said brunch. I helped make pancakes, Lily continued, warming up now. Sarah says I'm the best chocolate chip distributor in the whole state. That's a very important job, James said solemnly. I brought you something. Is it okay if I give it to you? Lily looked to Melissa for permission. At her mother's nod, she took the package carefully, unwrapping it with the focused concentration she brought to everything. Inside was a book, a beautiful illustrated encyclopedia of dinosaurs with detailed drawings and fascinating facts. Lily's entire face lit up. Dinosaurs, she breathed. Mommy, look. It has velociraptors and Parasaurolophus. Your mom mentioned you liked dinosaurs, James said softly, and his eyes found Melissa's across the room, asking silently, Did I do okay? She nodded, unable to speak past the lump in her throat. Brunch was surprisingly easy. James asked questions and actually listened to the answers. He didn't talk down to Lily or try too hard to impress her. When she launched into an enthusiastic explanation of why T-Rex arms weren't actually useless, he gave her his complete attention, asking follow-up questions that showed he was genuinely interested. Melissa watched her daughter blossom under his focus, and she felt the dangerous softening happening inside her own heart. After they ate, Lily asked if James wanted to see her drawings. He said yes, like she'd offered him a precious gift. They sat on the floor together, Lily's artwork spread between them, and Melissa watched from behind the counter, pretending to clean up while her heart performed acrobatics. This is my family, Lily explained, pointing to a crayon drawing of 2 stick figures. That's me and that's Mommy. We live upstairs and we're very happy. I can see that, James said. What about your daddy? Is he in any of your pictures? Melissa froze, but Lily answered with the simple honesty of childhood. I don't have a daddy. Just Mommy. But that's okay because Mommy is like 2 people's worth of love. James's hand went to his chest like she'd struck him. When he looked up at Melissa, his eyes were swimming. She saw everything in that look, the regret, the love, the desperate wish to be in that drawing, to be part of that simple stick-figure family. Your Mommy must be pretty special, he managed. She's the best in the whole world, Lily declared. Then with the casual cruelty of innocence, Are you married? Do you have kids? No, James said. No wife, no kids. Just a very big, very empty house. That sounds lonely. It is, he admitted. Very lonely? Lily considered this, her small face serious. Then she made a decision that would change everything. You can come visit us again if you want. Then maybe you won't be so lonely. James looked to Melissa, question and hope written across his face. She nodded, surrendering to the inevitable, because watching them together, seeing how gentle James was with her daughter, how patient and present, it was becoming impossible to maintain her walls. I would really like that, James told Lily. As the afternoon stretched on, Melissa found herself relaxing, laughing even, as James attempted to help Lily build an elaborate dinosaur habitat out of cardboard boxes and paint. He got more paint on himself than on the boxes, and Lily giggled at his incompetence, showing him the right way to do things with 6-year-old authority. When it was time for James to leave, Lily hugged him goodbye, quick and spontaneous before shyness could stop her. Melissa saw James close his eyes, memorizing the moment, holding her like she was made of something precious and fragile. At the door, he paused. Thank you, he said to Melissa. For today, for letting me, his voice broke. She's incredible. You've done an incredible job with her. She's easy to love, Melissa said softly. So are you, James replied, then left before she could respond. Sarah emerged from the back once his car pulled away. Well, she said, that man is in love. With both of you. It doesn't matter, Melissa said, but even she didn't believe it anymore, doesn't it? Sarah challenged. Because from where I was standing, you're in love too. Still, again, whatever. The point is, maybe it's time to stop punishing both of you for mistakes he made when he was 23. He broke my heart. Sarah, so let him spend the rest of his life putting it back together. Sarah squeezed her shoulder. Just think about it. That little girl deserves a father, and you deserve to be happy. Upstairs that night, tucking Lily into bed, Melissa listened to her daughter chatter about James, about how nice he was, about how he promised to come back and learn more about dinosaurs. And when Lily finally asked the question Melissa had been dreading, "Mommy, why did you and James stop being friends?" she found herself answering with more truth than she'd planned. "Because sometimes," she said carefully, "people make mistakes. And sometimes it takes a long time to find our way back to each other." "But you found him again," Lily said, certain in her child's logic. "So maybe the mistake is fixed now." If only it were that simple, Melissa thought. But as she turned out the light and left her daughter to sleep, she found herself hoping that maybe, just maybe it could be. The weeks that followed developed a rhythm that both terrified and comforted Melissa. James came to the cafe every Sunday without fail, rain or shine. Sometimes he brought small gifts, another book, art supplies, a stuffed brachiosaurus that quickly became Lily's favorite. Other times he came empty-handed, and those visits mattered more because they proved he was there for them, not to buy his way into their lives. Lily fell for him gradually, and then all at once. By the third visit, she was running to the door when she heard his car. By the sixth, she was holding his hand without prompting, showing him her latest school drawings, asking his opinion on everything from her favorite color to whether birds or fish were cooler. But it was a Tuesday afternoon in November when everything changed. Melissa was serving the lunch rush when Lily burst through the cafe door, school backpack bouncing, tears streaming down her face. Sarah caught her first, pulling the sobbing child into her arms, but Lily broke free and ran to Melissa. "Baby, what happened?" Melissa dropped to her knees, scanning her daughter for injuries. Madison said. Lily hiccuped, struggling for words. She said, "Everybody has a daddy, and if I don't have one, it means mine didn't want me." She said, "I'm not good enough to have a daddy." Melissa felt rage and helplessness war in her chest. She pulled Lily close, making soothing sounds, but her daughter's sobs only intensified. Sarah quickly moved to handle the customers, giving them space. "That's not true," Melissa said fiercely. "You are wanted and loved and perfect exactly as you are. Madison doesn't know what she's talking about." "But I don't have a daddy," Lily wailed. "Everybody else does. Why don't I? What's wrong with me?" Before Melissa could answer, the cafe door opened. James walked in, stopping short when he saw Lily's tears. "What happened?" he demanded, immediately crossing to them. Lily turned her tear-stained face to him. "Do you know my daddy?" she asked with desperate hope. "Mommy says he's out there somewhere." "Do you know where he is? Can you bring him to me?" Melissa watched James's face shatter. He looked at her, asking silent permission for something huge, something irrevocable. She saw her daughter's pain, saw James's certainty, and made a decision that terrified her. She nodded. James knelt beside them, taking Lily's small hands in his larger ones. "I need to tell you something," he said, his voice shaking. "Something important." "Is that okay?" Lily nodded, still crying but listening. "Remember how your mom and I used to be friends? A long, long time ago, before you were born. We loved each other very much, and then I made a terrible mistake. I went away. I thought I had to choose between your mom and my family's business, and I made the wrong choice. I chose wrong and I lost your mom, but I didn't know," his voice cracked. "I didn't know that when I left, you were growing inside your mom. I didn't know I was leaving you too." Melissa saw the moment comprehension dawned in Lily's eyes, watched her daughter's expression cycle through confusion. Understanding and wonder. "Are you?" Lily whispered. "Are you my daddy?" "Yes." James was crying now too. "Yes, sweetheart. I'm your daddy, and not having you in my life has been the biggest tragedy I could ever imagine. There's nothing wrong with you, you're perfect. The problem was me. I was lost. But now I've found you, and if you'll let me, I want to be your daddy. Really be your daddy. For the rest of your life." Lily launched herself at him, wrapping her small arms around his neck. "You came back," she sobbed into his shoulder. "You found us." "I'll always find my way back to you," James promised, holding her like he'd never let go. "Always. I promise." Melissa stood frozen, watching her daughter and the man she'd never stopped loving cling to each other. 7 years of absence trying to be healed in a single embrace. Customers were staring, but she didn't care. Let them watch. Let them see a family knitting itself back together. Messy and imperfect and achingly real. Eventually, Lily pulled back, studying James's face with new understanding. Are you going to live with us now? That's what daddies do. James looked at Melissa, and she saw everything he wanted to say written in his expression, but he answered carefully. That's something your mom and I need to talk about. But no matter where I live, I'm going to be part of your life every single day. I promise you that. Okay, Lily said, satisfied. Then, with the resilience of childhood, can I tell Madison? She'll be so surprised. Despite everything, Melissa laughed. Yes, baby. You can tell Madison. That evening, after Lily fell asleep clutching her stuffed brachiosaurus, Melissa and James sat in the darkened cafe, 2 cups of cooling coffee between them. We need to talk about logistics, Melissa started. Custody arrangements, child support, how we're going to… Marry me, James interrupted. Melissa's breath stopped. What? Marry me, he repeated, leaning forward. Not because of Lily, though I want to be her father in every possible way. Not because it's practical, though it would simplify things. Marry me because I love you. Because I've loved you for 11 years. Because I loved you when I left. And I loved you every day I was gone. And I love you now, sitting in your cafe at midnight, trying to figure out how to be a family. James, you don't have to answer now, he said quickly. I know I need to earn that. But I'm asking anyway because I want you to know. This isn't just about Lily. You and I were always supposed to be together. I took a 7-year detour into hell, but I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere ever again. Melissa felt tears sliding down her cheeks. I can't, she whispered. I can't just forgive 7 years because you show up and say pretty words. I'm not asking for instant forgiveness, James said. I'm asking for a chance. Date me, let me court you. Let me prove that I'm not that scared 23-year-old anymore. Let me show you who I've become. And if I say no, then I'll still be Lily's father. I'll still show up. I'll still love you from whatever distance you require. He reached across the table, hovering his hand near hers, not touching, asking permission. But I'm hoping you'll say yes. I'm hoping you'll let me try to earn my way back into your heart. Melissa looked at his hand, at the familiar and strange all at once. She thought about the girl she'd been at 22, so sure of their love. She thought about the woman she'd become, stronger, more cautious, but not invincible. She thought about Lily's face when she'd realized James was her father, that pure, uncomplicated joy. She put her hand in his. One step at a time, she said, echoing their earlier conversation. You want to date me? Fine, but we do this right. No shortcuts. No assuming that because we were in love once, we automatically fit together now. We're different people. We need to relearn each other. Whatever you need, James agreed, squeezing her hand. However long it takes. And James? She held his gaze, making sure he understood. If you hurt her, if you hurt either of us again, there won't be another chance. I'll survive it. She won't. I won't, he promised. I swear on everything I am. I won't hurt either of you again. They sat in the quiet cafe, hands linked across the table, while outside the November wind rattled the windows. It wasn't the ending Melissa had imagined all those years ago, when she'd been young and pregnant and alone. But maybe it was something better, a beginning earned through pain, built on truth, and strong enough to hold all of them. 3 months later, James proposed again, this time with Lily's help. They'd planned it together. A treasure hunt through the cafe with clues Lily had carefully drawn, leading to the corner booth where it had all started, where Lily had looked up and innocently shattered and rebuilt their world. This time, when James knelt with a ring, Melissa said yes without hesitation. Because he'd earned it, through consistency, through showing up, through loving them both without reservation or condition. They married in spring, in the cafe's garden, surrounded by mismatched chairs and friends who'd watched their story unfold. Lily was the flower girl, scattering petals with solemn concentration. When the officiant asked if anyone objected, Lily shouted, "No way," with such conviction that everyone laughed, the sound carrying on the warm breeze. During their vows, James turned to Lily first. "I promise to be the father you deserve," he said, his voice thick with emotion. To show up for every recital, every scraped knee, every moment you need me. I promise to love your mother with everything I am. And I promise that our family, this beautiful, hard-won family, will always come first. Lily threw her arms around his legs, and he lifted her between them, so she stood at the altar with her parents, exactly where she belonged. When Melissa spoke her own vows, she chose honesty over poetry. 7 years ago, losing you broke me, she told James, but it also made me stronger. Strong enough to build this life, this cafe, to raise an incredible daughter. Strong enough to let you back in when it would have been easier to shut you out. I'm not promising that everything will be perfect. We have scars. We have history. But I'm promising to choose us every day, to believe in second chances, to trust that love can be lost and found and built into something even more beautiful than before. The kiss was sweet and salt-tinged with tears. Hers. His, even some from the guests watching this family finally, fully come together. The years that followed weren't always easy. There were moments when old fears surfaced, when Melissa wondered if James would stay when things got hard. There were arguments about parenting styles, about James's work schedule, about how to blend their different worlds. James's mother, who had replaced his father as the family matriarch, took years to fully accept Melissa and Lily, her old prejudices dying hard. But through it all, James kept his promise. He showed up. When Lily had nightmares, he was there. When Melissa's cafe needed expansion capital, he invested without hesitation, never trying to control or change what she'd built. When his company demanded late nights, he reorganized his schedule, delegated more, made it clear that his family came first. He never missed a single dinosaur-themed birthday party. He learned to braid hair, though his attempts were comically lopsided, until Lily patiently taught him the right technique. He expanded the cafe's garden, building raised beds where Lily could plant vegetables and flowers. On Sundays, their sacred family day, he taught Lily to make his grandmother's pancake recipe, the three of them working in the cafe's kitchen in flower-dusted harmony. The cafe itself became something bigger than Melissa had imagined. With James's business expertise and Melissa's vision, they opened a foundation helping single parents start small businesses. Every year they funded 3 new ventures, providing not just capital but mentorship and support. Melissa insisted on staying involved with each recipient, knowing firsthand how isolating single parenthood could be. 2 years after their wedding, when Lily was 8, they welcomed a son, Matthew, who had Melissa's dark eyes and James's stubborn determination. Lily was an enthusiastic big sister, constantly trying to teach the baby about dinosaurs before he could even hold his head up. He's not ready for velociraptors yet, James would say, laughing. Everyone's ready for velociraptors, Daddy, Lily would insist, a phrase that became a family joke. On Lily's 10th birthday, James gave her a special gift, a framed copy of her first drawing. The stick figure family of just her and Melissa. Beside it, he'd mounted a new drawing Lily had made recently. 4 figures now, holding hands, a house and a cafe in the background, a sun overhead with a smile. I wanted you to have this, he told her, so you never forget where we came from. Your mom was right. She was worth 2 people's love when it was just the 2 of you. But I hope I've earned my place in this picture. Lily, growing tall and serious, hugged him tight. You earned it a long time ago, Daddy. On their 10th wedding anniversary, James and Melissa stood in the cafe garden at twilight, the string lights overhead casting golden pools of light. The cafe was closed for a private party, their friends and family celebrating a decade of marriage, but really celebrating so much more than that. Do you ever think about how it almost didn't happen? Melissa asked, leaning against James's shoulder. Inside, they could hear Lily and Matthew playing with their cousins, Sarah directing the caterers, laughter spilling through the open windows. Every day, James admitted, I think about all the ways I could have lost you both forever. How close I came to missing all of this. I'm glad you found us, Melissa said softly. I'm glad I let you back in. Even though it terrified me. Best decision you ever made, James teased, then grew serious. Second best. The first was keeping Lily, raising her alone when I'd abandoned you. That took courage I didn't have. You found it eventually. Because of you. Both of you. James turned her to face him, his hands on her waist, that familiar gesture that still sent butterflies through her chest after all these years. You know what the best part is? We get to keep choosing this. Every day we get to choose each other, choose this family, choose this life we've built. That's the real miracle. Not that we found each other again, but that we keep choosing to stay. From inside, Lily's voice called out, "Mom!" "Dad, come on. We're doing speeches." They walked back toward the cafe together, hands linked, drawn by the warmth and light and love waiting inside. Through the windows, Melissa could see their life on display. The cafe that had been her sanctuary now filled with the people who mattered most. The family that had grown from heartbreak into something beautiful and whole. This was what second chances looked like, she thought. Not perfect, not without scars, but real and earned and worth every moment of fear it took to believe in them. As they stepped inside, Matthew ran to them, all chubby toddler legs and enthusiasm, while Lily stood at the microphone Sarah had set up, preparing whatever speech she'd secretly written. James scooped up his son while Melissa moved to stand beside her daughter, and for just a moment, the four of them were framed in the doorway, a family, hard-won and complete. "Ready?" James whispered to her. Melissa looked at their children, at the cafe that had been her refuge and was now their gathering place, at the man who'd left and found his way back and spent every day since proving his devotion. She thought about the girl she'd been, alone and pregnant and heartbroken, and the woman she'd become, strong enough to forgive, brave enough to trust again. "Ready," she said, and surrounded by love and light and the beautiful mess of their blended, rebuilt, perfectly imperfect family, they stepped forward into their future together, leaving the pain of the past behind them at last. The cafe door swung closed, the bell chiming its familiar note, and on the painted sign outside, the lights illuminated the name that had always meant more than just a business, Lily's Corner, where everyone belongs. And finally, after years of wandering, they all did.